Welcome to Write to Publish, your go-to podcast for all things writing and publishing. I'm Karen Stanley, a 14 times published author and the founder of Mabel and Stanley Publishing. Join me as I share a multitude of tips and insights drawn from my own writing and publishing journey. We'll be hearing from some inspirational authors too, who will share their writing experiences and top tips for success. Each week, we'll learn about an aspect of writing, from composition to genre and from publishing to marketing. Listen in as we learn and chat about all things writing and publishing, and let's get you on the right path. Hello and welcome to another episode of Write to Publish with me, Karen Stanley. It's wonderful to have you here with me again, and I hope you're doing really well with your writing journey and wherever you are, that life is treating you well. So today we're going to talk about the truth about hybrid publishing. It's a very contentious issue. There's lots of pros and cons. There's lots of myths surrounding it. There's good, there's bad, and there's downright ugly. As with all kind of methods of publishing, there's some brilliant, there's some not so good, and it would very much depend on you as the author as to which journey suits you the best. So what is right for one is not right for another. But I do know that in my own writing journey, I got duped by a Vanity press. I was traditionally published. I tried to self-publish with not much success. And then I eventually went for the hybrid publishing method. That was before, obviously, I started Mabel and Stanley Publishing, and it worked really well for me. And the thing I loved about it, it gave me, as a new author, it gave me the support and guidance that I needed at that time. But as I say, it very much depends on the individual, and what works for one may not work for another. So let's introduce the topic of hybrid publishing. And, you know, it really is a growing option for authors in today's publishing landscape. The publishing landscape has changed quite significantly, whereas it used to be that the only way forward was traditional publishing, and self-publishing wasn't really a thing many years ago. But now there is a lot more choice out there, and authors are able to take more control of their own publishing journey. But it doesn't mean that you should not get expert help, because some books out there have been published and they might have been self-published. It doesn't mean they should have been self-published. If you're going to publish a book that's of poor quality or not well edited or not, well put together, you are wasting your time, really, because it will really discredit you as an author. So whilst there is a lot of snobbery surrounding hybrid publishing, and some people say it's very unscrupulous, if you need help with your publishing journey, then it's good to get it, because if you're going to go with an organisation which is reputable and is going to give you the right support, it means you're going to have a much more professional looking manuscript when you do finally publish. So there is some confusion. Traditional publishing, we'll talk about that another day. Those are like your Penguin, your HarperCollins, and some sort of small independent, sometimes known as indie publishing houses. They will take on board everything for you and do everything for you. But the cons around that is that you do lose a lot of control, and they will very much call the shots, which is why lots of people are moving to self-publishing or hybrid publishing. So hybrid publishing really bridges the gap between total self-publishing and traditional publishing. It kind of gives you that little bit of kudos, but without you having to lose too much of your control and your rights. So it combines aspects of traditional publishing and of self-publishing. So generally what happens is the author invests financially. If you choose a hybrid publisher, you will invest financially. So there will become some costs associated with your publishing journey. But for that money, you should receive professional services, help with distribution, support. Some hybrid companies will give you support with your marketing, although I would be a little bit dubious when they promise the earth regarding marketing, because marketing is a long game, and very few companies, reputable companies, are going to promise you to market your book for all of time, because it's a long game, it's costly, and it's time consuming. So they might offer support, but be a little bit skeptical. If it feels a bit too good to be true, it probably is. You are still, unless you're a famous person and you've got a huge following, the marketing is always really going to be down to you. And that applies whether you self-publish, whether you hybrid publish, or whether you traditional publish. The big traditional publishing houses are not going to push unknown authors like they would a celebrity, because it's costly and it takes a lot of their time, and there's no guarantees. So although it does cost you to use a hybrid publisher, and you don't pay for traditional publishing, but you will ultimately pay in the amount of royalties that you have, that they will take from you. And usually they will take quite a high percentage of your royalties. They're not a charity, they're still a business. So they're going to want to see a return on their investment, which is why it's very difficult to get a traditional publishing deal, because it's very competitive, because they want to know that if they take you on, they're going to be able to sell loads of your books, and that's where they get the money. So yes, you don't pay up front, but you will pay down the line. So lots of hybrid publishers, and I like to count Mabel and Stanley Publishing amongst them, are transparent. They will tell you exactly what you get for your money. They will tell you exactly what you get for your money, what they're going to do for you, and they'll have some kind of digital footprint. You'll be able to see other books that they've published. You might even be able to buy a couple of them if you want to quality check. That's not a terrible idea. They'll be transparent about the cost. Some hybrid publishers will take royalties, some don't. Mabel and Stanley Publishing, we don't take royalties. What we really do, we veer more on the side of assisted self-publishing, actually. So we give you all of the technical support, we do the editing, the formatting, depending on the packages that you have, but we certainly would do the formatting. We'll assist you with your marketing strategy. We can offer further marketing services. We'll also assist you with things like your cover design, writing a good blurb, category placement, helping you to get bestseller status, all of those things. All of that expertise and that experience that has been hard fought and hard come by, we will give you that. So for me, as a first-time author, when I started out, I knew nothing about that. I had no clue what I was doing. And so when I went to a hybrid publisher and they gave me all of that technical support, it was a godsend, because I really didn't know what I was doing without it. If you are going to use a hybrid publisher, look at their website, look at their reviews, look at people that have used them, look at their social proof, look at their social media. What are they saying that they do, and does it look like they actually deliver that? Buy one of the books that they've produced and see if it's of good quality, and most of them will probably publish you to Amazon or Ink & Sparks or one of those platforms that means that your book will be sold as print on demand. So you don't need to order a big catalogue of books to sit in your garage gathering dust. They'll be printed as they're sold, which is the most cost-effective way for new authors to get their work out there. If part of your strategy is to get into bookshops, then I would recommend other platforms such as Ink & Sparks. Bookshops aren't massively keen on books that are printed by Amazon because it's their biggest competitor. But again, at Mabel and Stanley, we would help you to decide on which platforms are the best for you. Primarily Amazon, whether you like it or not, it's the biggest platform in globally for selling books. But if you want to get into bookshops and that's part of your strategy, then there are other platforms that we would advise. So there are a lot of great hybrid publishers out there. However, there are a lot of vanity press out there who will masquerade as hybrid publishers. And the way to spot these are they will charge a huge amount of money. You know, hybrid publishing services, they're not cheap. You know, it takes a lot of time, a lot of energy, a lot of effort, particularly of having editing services and marketing and formatting and all of that. That takes a lot of time. So that isn't cheap to pay for that expertise. But vanity publishers will charge sometimes tens of thousands. It should not cost you tens of thousands to publish your book. And they will sometimes masquerade as hybrid publishers because of the really bad reputation that vanity press have got. So do your research, look at the company, look at their social proof, look at their reviews, look at what you're going to get. And vanity publishers will generally, they will charge a lot of money. There will be little quality control. They are often quite predatory. So if a publishing company approaches you, an unknown author who's never written before, and says, "Oh my God, we've heard about your book. We'd love to help you publish. We think you're amazing," be very wary. I do not approach authors ever. They approach me. I don't, why would I know Joe Bloggs from Clapham if I've never heard of him before? If someone is approaching you and telling you that your book is great, it's either because they're looking at your search history, or they've seen you making comments on publishing sites, or they've seen you doing searches for publishing services, or you might have even made contact or responded to an ad. These companies are very, very predatory. If they come to you, sweeping statement, but I would bet as far as to go as if they come to you, I would say 99.9% of them are probably less than scrupulous. There are a lot of sharks out there. You do need to be really, really careful. So if they come to you, then I would be wary. If there's a lack of transparency, if they're looking for upfront payments and then huge payments in royalties, if there's no real kind of idea of how your book's going to be distributed, say you're going to charge you a large sum of money to publish your book, and then you end up with 5 copies and you don't even know where your book is available for sale. I've literally seen it all. No editorial oversight. When my first book was published by a Vanity press, they were going to format and edit it for me. Very loose term. I'll use that term very loosely in inverted commas. And when they showed me the first draft, there were so many mistakes on it that I hadn't even put in myself. It was criminal. And it was very clear to me that they hadn't even read my book. So do not use a publishing company that does not want to quality check your book. If they're prepared to publish your book without any kind of quality check, that means they have no regard and will publish anything. They don't care about the quality. So it means they'll publish any old junk, and it means they won't care about your book or care about the quality of it. So if they're predatory, if they don't read your book, if they don't offer any kind of quality checks, if the fees are excessive and there's a real lack of transparency, they say to you, well, it's going to cost you this, and a bit down the line, well, you've got to pay for this, and then you've got to pay this on top, and then you've got, the fees tend to keep adding up. Be very wary of companies like that. They're not true hybrid publishers, and they're very unscrupulous. You'll go in a lot of these hybrid these writers groups and forums, and they'll say anyone who asks you to pay for publishing services, it's a con, it's a scam, run away. That's not strictly true, because even if you completely self-publish yourself, even if you're confident enough with the tech and all of that, if your book's going to be anything worth printing, you're still going to have to get it edited, and you're going to have to pay for that. You're still going to have some input with regard to cover design. There'll be loads of people out there who tell you, you don't need to bother with all that. It doesn't matter. You can easily do it yourself. I would argue that you can't easily do it yourself, especially not first time around, because what you'll end up with is a less than professional book and something that really doesn't do your work justice. So be very careful and very wary if that's the case. There'll be different royalty structures. As I say, some hybrid publishing companies will charge royalties at all. This doesn't necessarily make them unscrupulous, but you do need to think about what kind of value for money you're getting. And compare different models, because some hybrids will offer higher royalties than traditional publishing. Some will offer less. You've got to do your research and look at what the terms and conditions are. Key considerations that you must make are who retains the rights to your book. A traditional publishing house, for example, could say, yeah, we're going to publish your book, and then could sit on it for 2 years because they're too busy to publish it. So the great thing about hybrid publishing is there's usually a much quicker turnaround. I usually say to my authors 2 to 4 months from finished manuscript to published. And it obviously depends on whether if they need editing and other things that will add up. But really think about what they're saying about the timeline, and whether what your rights you're going to retain, and who those rights belong to. What you don't want to do is sign away your book to someone and then you've got no control over it. You've paid a lot of money and you can't even order author copies yourself, or you don't know how it's distributed, or you don't know how to get hold of it. But hybrid publishing can be a brilliant method for new or inexperienced authors. It can provide professional guidance, for example. It can provide editorial input, design, marketing assistance, credibility. You have the credibility of that publishing logo and the independent ISBN on the back, which means you can market your book in more places. And you've got that stamp of approval from that publishing house, particularly if they've done quality checks. It shows that they care. It shows that they'll only produce things that are worthy of their label, which means you're obviously going to get a better service, and they'll care more about the end result. As I said, you get more control, but you also faster turnaround time, which sometimes, especially if you're writing a business book and you want it to do something for your business and you've got deadlines and events and you want it to form part of your marketing strategy, then it's good to know how long it will take. Traditional publishing, as I've just said, can take years, whereas hybrid publishing should really only take a few months. If you go with a hybrid publishing company and it looks like it's dragging on for months and months and months, again, I would question their credibility or their ability even, and their level of expertise. You really, really don't want to be going with a hybrid publisher that don't have rigorous editorial standards, because quality matters for the reader experience, for your credibility as an author, for your long-term sales potential, and certainly if you're going to publish further books, maybe you're doing a series, if you have one terrible one to start, then obviously that's going to deeply affect what happens moving forward. So it's really important that you make sure you've got really good credibility there. The other thing is, working with this reputable hybrid publisher, it can add legitimacy to your work. And we've got a lot of experience about category placement, about what makes a good cover. I've seen some people come to me with some shocking cover ideas, and it's not because they're they're not able, but it's just that they haven't got the experience to know what that genre requires from a cover and what the readers are looking for. And you'll also get the benefit of professional marketing advice, distribution, and it can also be really a stepping stone to a traditional deal in the future. If you build up a really good reputation as a self-published or hybrid published author, and you start to get traction, you start to get a really good following, you start to get good success and sales, and you do then decide you want to go down the traditional route. A friend of mine who's now on about 1.5 million sales has done really well, but she said she'd built up a really good following, and I mean thousands and thousands in her following. So she was more or less knocking on an open door. She was approaching people who were very interested in her already because she had such a brilliant following. So my final thoughts and takeaways from today is, research, ask questions, and read contracts carefully, for goodness sake. I knew one girl came to me, published her book with me, had been asked to sign a contract, and she had to sign it after page 4 before they would give her access to the second half of the contract. I mean, fortunately, she told them to get knotted in no uncertain terms, but I mean, that's so unscrupulous, and there's such a lack of transparency there that it smacks of deception, which is not good. There are resources out there for finding reputable hybrid publishers. There's something called the ALLI, I think it's ALLI, which is the Alliance of Independent Authors, and they've got lots of information about who to look out for and which ones you should definitely avoid. So thank you so much for listening in today. I love that you're out there listening to my dulcet tones, and I hope that the information I give you is helpful. As always, if you've got any questions whatsoever, you can find me on all the social media channels at Mabel and Stanley Publishing, or you can email me, Karen@mabelandstanleypublishing.com. If you've just started on your writing and publishing journey, then please do reach out and I'll be more than happy to help you. I give completely, no obligation advice. I don't entice people to work with me, whether we work together or not. I like to give you the sort of advice that means it's got integrity and it's honest, and then you choose your own journey. I firmly believe that you should be choosing the journey that's right for you, and I really help you and urge you to do that. I do have a writing and publishing membership community, and I run weekly lives in that group, which you're able to join. I think it's like £9 a month, so it's not even the price of lunch. And if you're interested in joining that community where you've got loads of resources on there, you'll also have access to my Kickstart Your Fiction Writing Journey digital course, which launched in February 2025. There's lots of resources and there's lots of ways that you can have access to me to help you with your journey and get you on the right path. So thank you for joining me. Please do get in touch, Karen@mabelandstanleypublishing.com, if there's anything you'd like to ask me, or you'd like feedback on anything you've done so far, or if you've been given advice and you would like some help to check its validity. I wish you all well. Have a wonderful day, week, month and year, and I hope to see you all again soon.